Hi, it's me, Ranjit. If you enjoyed this episode, I request you to leave us a review. This will help us to reach more great podcast listeners like you. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to FS Brew. FS Brew is the region's first podcast focusing on all things insurance and insurtech here in the UAE and the wider Middle East. I'm Vidya. I'm the founder of Forward, a startup that works with insurance companies to accelerate their go-to-market propositions, digital transformation, and digital marketing initiatives.
And I'm Ranjit Philip. I'm an angel investor and advise and work with startups. These days, I'm working to set up the Middle East business of a cyber insurtech called Box Insurance. And today we are meeting Vaibhav and Javed from wellx.ai. wellx.ai is the first of its kind wellness health insurance platform that rewards its users for leading a healthy lifestyle and gives back in terms of their premiums. So Vaibhav Kashyap is the co-founder and CEO of wellx. Vaibhav is an MBA from INSEAD and a Bachelor of Science in Insurance from the Ohio State University. And he comes armed with an extensive experience in the insurance space spanning over 10 years.
And Javed is an accomplished financial services professional. He's the co-founder and managing director of wellx. He holds a bachelor's degree in business administration from the Southern New Hampshire University. I quite enjoyed this whole conversation between the two. The chemistry was quite palpable between them, and they seem to be really working towards building a cutting-edge health insurtech proposition for this market. Ranjit?
Yeah, absolutely. First of its kind in this region, homegrown. And I like their focus on building an ecosystem as a whole, which is really right from mental health to physical wellness and everything in between.
So Vaibhav and Javed, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you with us here.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Very much great to be here. So thank you so much for inviting us.
Great. Awesome. So this is a question we ask all our guests. How did you guys get into insurance? And can you please tell us, why did you go about setting up wellx?
You want to go first?
No, you go first.
So I was born to insurance, as I think Vidya, so were you. And it tends to be that it's an industry that's not perceived as very interesting or sexy from the outside, but if you're surrounded by it, it does have its appeal. Why we set up wellx? I think one of the challenges you face being in the insurance industry is, you tell anybody else who's not in insurance, you work in insurance, they kind of give you this big sigh, right? Like, oh my God, how disappointing. And I think I personally believe that the industry is meant to provide that peace of mind, security, and care for its customers that we all talk about. And what drove us to build wellx was to make that a reality, right? To build something that really does make people happy, add value on a day-to-day basis, and doesn't let people feel that they're being cheated or mistreated or taken advantage of in any way or form. And so that's one of the key reasons why we set up wellx.
Nice.
And when I first met him, that's the same side that I had to, he's like, I was born in a family of insurance. I'm like, oh no, what am I getting into? But I think one of the reasons why I am where I am and why I'm doing what I'm doing is so that we can take that sigh away, right? It's an industry that's been, like you mentioned earlier on, it's so heavily guarded by so many different gatekeepers, and there's so much different terminology that's thrown around, that the end user, the customer, has lost all sorts of control of how it is that they engage with their product. And something that's always driven me is in how we can make people change their everyday lives. And the financial services space is one that I very much believe in, having spent the better part of my professional career, 18 years in the banking space. A space in which technology and change and transformation has very recently come full throttle. I was lucky enough to be part of the initial digital teams within the bank that saw those crazy experiences coming to the world of banking. And I feel like this industry, the insurance industry, is primed for that transformation or for that change. And we're on ground zero right now of building some magical experiences in the space of insurance. So this is why I'm here, to change the world. One policy.
No, that's good. That's excellent. Good to see sort of different points of attack into the insurance industry. And the thing is, once you get into it, you start to like it and you feel, hey, I should have been in this industry. Now, stepping back and thinking through, we like the ideation process, when the startup is kind of created. What were the sort of the first steps that you both took to start the business? Who met whom and what happened? It's good to know the background. It's always interesting.
Cool. So I used to be a fat kid. And so I used to tell my mom that I'm going to grow up and have a gym, and that's going to have a health food restaurant associated with it. And we're going to, make people fitter and healthier. Because I didn't feel like I had that infrastructure growing up. And then, of course, growing up in insurance, we sort of went down the insurance path and was trying to figure out how do we marry the two. And it's a proven business model in other parts of the world, shown to reduce healthcare costs, proven to make people healthier. And Middle East is sort of the right place, right, for it, given that we live sort of relatively sedentary lives. So I had a rough understanding of what we wanted to do. And I think meeting Javed really helped crystallize that into something that's an actionable plan. His experience was invaluable in terms of he's done a few startups before and sort of been in sort of very senior and key positions. So it's been a great team effort getting the product to where it is today and continuing on from there.
Right. So do I take it that Vaibhav, you're handling the business side and Javed is a product, or how is the sort of?
So I'm more product and Javed. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Perfect.
Nice. I mean, it slips in quite nicely to my next question, actually, to you both. The whole co-founder relationship is quite critical for startups. And we know from data that many startups fail if this is not done well. Now, did you both take a very conscious, look to avoid such issues? What did you guys do to make sure so those issues don't come about? How did you go about agreeing on the roles of what each of you will do as co-founders? If you can talk through those would be great.
Yeah, I think a good question, and you're right. It feeds right in from the previous question. Look, we complement each other quite well. You've got the corporate sort of backdrop of 18 years, very strategic view, somebody who understands the industry at the depths at which Vaibhav does it. It kind of fits in well. I think when it comes to co-founders, it's sort of like any relationship. It has to come very naturally and has to be organic in the way that it evolves. Now, having spent the last many months with Vaibhav, it seems like it's almost like, where I leave off is where he starts off, and where he leaves off is where I'm able to continue on from. I feel like if you're aligned on the ultimate objective, right, which is doing something crazy, which is trying to change the world, and you're able to come to terms with the fact that you both want it to happen, the journey, while exciting, can also be very taxing, tiring, exhausting, but fun at the same time. And you can have all sorts of disputes, arguments, and we fight all day long, right? This guy wants to get married to everyone that he meets. I very strongly oppose marriage. So, with that particular thing said, it sort of gives you a good balance in how you handle your day-to-day, but with that ultimate objective of being able to get to where you want to get at, right? We're very, very stubborn on that ultimate objective, but we're very flexible in how we get there. The one thing that I think really brings us together is neither one of us is afraid to fail, but more importantly, is afraid to call a fail so that we can pivot and move on from it. And I think if you have these two sort of things plugged in right from the get-go, everything then becomes about how do you get to the next step, right? And if you can get to that place in a relationship, I think you've got something interesting happening.
Nice.
Yeah, very, very good. Yeah, that's a very good point. Vidya, you were going to ask something?
No, I was just going to say, I believe finding a co-founder it's almost like dating. So it's an interesting.
Yeah, just to clarify, the marriage point was to do with business relationships and not actually getting married.
You can censor that out of the interview because his wife got divorced from I don't know.
My wife, that's because I'm in Dubai all the time and she's not.
No, it just tells you, it is a meeting of the minds, right? You have to be aligned very much 100%. To do this. Yeah.
Flexibility is one of the most important things in the situation.
Correct.
Both of us are very flexible in terms of what we want and what we need and how we achieve our end targets. So that's been our best.
Yeah.
aspect, I think.
And look, the journey ahead, I think, is going to be a lot more grueling, right? We're, like I said, at that sort of honeymoon phase where we're building the product, excited to sign up partnerships, get people engaged, getting people excited about what we're able to achieve. It's when the business starts to get built around is when you'll get real testimony to this relationship.
Sure.
But if it gets off to a good start, then you're on the right track.
True.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so that was the co-founder piece, and the other important piece is obviously the business model. We have seen in some cases, businesses which just look at gathering customers at all costs, and then when the business tide turns, you realize that it's not a viable business. So we want to dig a little bit into the business model, if you don't mind. And it's a great example of a homegrown insurtech. So we are all eager to know sort of what are the core components of the business model, and how do you monetize? If you're happy to share that, will be good to know.
Yeah, sure. So I think first of all, our core concept is that we want to be selling health, right? So selling the concept of being healthy versus the concept of we'll pay when you fall sick. So that does change the approach a little bit in terms of in terms of how we target our customers, and in terms of how you structure the product, because there is a large wellness component to it. And so effectively, we're not just selling insurance, we're also selling wellness, right? So the market, if you think about it, it's two markets that we're catering to. Then on top of that, I think, just as you said, there's loads of companies, startups. You've seen what's happening currently in the US with the stock, with all the insurtechs getting beaten up 90%.
It's not just insurtechs, it's everybody.
It's everybody, but insurtech specifically have really taken a hit, right? And I think that's to do with the fact that, look, customer acquisition at all costs, including losing underwriting profitability, is something that is something that is definitely an issue and concern, especially with the companies that went the sort of full stack carrier route. From our perspective, what we very much believe in making very many incremental and small wins. And so what we've done is focus on the product being profitable in itself, right? Because in general, yes, there's years companies don't make money, but in general, the insurers are making money, right? And what we're doing is augmenting that to build upon that, to then focus on improving the levels of profitability, instead of coming in with a product that completely is reliant on aggressive assumptions that are yet to be proven, right? So from that perspective, I mean, our product is quite safe on the health insurance front, but the uniqueness with the wellness aspect is what makes it what makes it different, and that's how we built the business model.
So in the first
if I get
one of our partners, which we engaged with very early on, one of the first companies that actually subscribed to the concept, he told us, go out there and get me rich, healthy, young customers, right?
Right.
And so when we set out and we created the concept, we realized customers that are fit will self-select into this concept because it's a wellness-backed proposition, right? And if I care for my wellness, I'm going to buy into this proposition. So by default, what we're doing is we're privileged to be in a position where we can sort of start from scratch, which no insurer has that sort of leverage right now, that ability. And so we're able to start in a place where we only attract good risk, and we can pick and choose the risk that we bring onto the platform, which gives you longevity in this space. So it gives you the ability to then experiment and do so much more with your customer base.
Right. So just to clarify for our listeners, I mean, this is a health insurance add-on which gives, depending on your behaviors, you get a better rate and benefits around it. I mean, is that accurate?
Exactly. So, well, it's a health insurance product in itself, and but exactly as you mentioned, the healthier somebody behaves, the more, and it's a lot about behavior and commitment to bettering one's lifestyle effectively, right? So we're not saying that we want somebody of this age or this BMI or whatever like that. What we do want is somebody committing to improving their life in whatever way or form they constitute as wellness. And that could be mental, physical, just taking steps, eating healthy, any of those things. As long as they do a little bit more than they were yesterday, that's good enough for us.
So it's an entire proposition. If I was to break it down a little bit further into more simpler steps, right? We're a bit allergic to the term add-on, because what this actually is a proposition on its own, topped and tailed wellness, right? So at the top, we have a concept called Stay Well, which is very simple. You take steps, you earn cash back. Very easy, right? The more you walk, the more you earn, and you're earning this back from your insurance premium. So your insurance company, your insurance product is giving you this money back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the Get Well piece, which comes then later, which is if you do fall sick, you have this brilliant health insurance proposition that will take care of you in your bad days, right? And then you've got at the bottom of it all a Live Well concept, which has this ecosystem of wellness partners that go all the way from mental health activations to healthy meals, nutrition, psychological eating patterns. And you get incentivized for engaging with any one of these ecosystem partners. So if you decide, for example, to sign up to a Believe Nutrition, right, or to a Coach Hamdan for some life coaching sessions, you pay what you would anyways pay to a life coach because you wanted to go to a life coach because you were looking after yourself, and wellx will give you some cash back for doing it. So the idea is through these three concepts, we're able to cover a customer's complete insurance experience through wellness, right? So we're addressing it through, like he said, preventative. It's an age-old concept, an apple a day. We're just basically going back to our roots where we started.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Perfect.
Excellent. And this is all strongly powered by the whole AI component as well, isn't it? And that's a huge first as well for the industry here.
Yeah, 100%, right? So recommending the right kind of wellness to each individual to optimize their health is where the power lies, right? Because there's, well over 1,000 different applications that you could potentially use, and there's so much noise in the market. If we can figure out how to let somebody know what the best thing it is for them to do to optimize their health and bring their premiums down in the process, then sort of killing many birds with one stone.
Yeah, because the truth is, what's good for me may not be good for him, and what's good for him may not be good for me. Everybody has their own sweet spot, right, when it comes to wellness, and we want to be able to help them find that.
Absolutely. So now that you've understood, that sort of customer persona that you're seeking for wellx, how did you go about letting those customers know about your product? How did you start your marketing? How did you get them to know the whole proposition? How did you get your first set of customers? So I understand that your startup works on the back of partnerships. So how did you get the first one off the ground?
Right. Okay. So I'm going to break this up into two pieces, right? So the first part was how we first started, right? Once the product was ready, January is when we started sort of our pre-launch, and it was mostly through word of mouth, networks, and we started talking to people and engaging with people. We had a little bit of PR going, which was a bit overwhelming in terms of response, because it's the first time ever in this region that people have seen a different side of insurance, right? So insurance is always competing on limits. I will cover you up to $1 million dirhams if you get sick, right? And that's how people have always looked at insurance. And this is the first time an insurance company is saying, you know what, wait, don't fall sick. And if you stay healthy, you keep staying healthy, I'll keep giving you money. And like, okay, cool, that's awesome, right? So a lot of the initial sort of customers that we got coming through the doors, we're just trying to understand, what are you guys trying to do? Like, how does this make sense that an insurance company is going to give me money? Like, normally I pay an insurance company money, right? So it was mostly those non-believers that we were able to convert into believing citizens of the movement, right? And we like to call it a movement because we're trying to drive those resilient communities, right? So Vaibhav says this very well. After your parents and your family and friends, your insurer should care about you falling sick. But that hasn't really come across very, very clearly or candidly from the insurance perspective, because they're so busy in doing what they're doing. So that's where the initial customer flow came in, and we continued that approach of doing a little bit of PR, talking about the concept, signing up with our ecosystem partners, getting them to spread the word. There were echoes around the corridors within the insurance industry and space. We haven't yet started our sort of mass market awareness campaigns. We will, that will come in time. But what we have done is found a new way to market, because, going back to what you said earlier about AI only works on scale. You need to have a certain number of community members before we start, recommending stuff. So we thought to ourselves, look, we can keep, and everything we did till today, the 1,300 members that we have on the plan till today, are people that we had to pretty much bring on board ourselves. Everybody that we have on board today was done primarily by us, and we're like, now how do we take this and go next level, right? We can keep doing, like I said, one policy a day, but how do we take this to the next step? And that's when our B2B2C models sort of came to life. So what we were able to do successfully now is get a distribution network that's stronger than anything that the two of us could have ever been able to achieve on our own. We've been able to sign up with a partner that's taking an insurance partner that's taking us to market through their distribution channels. In fact, we had the signing ceremony today. So early next week, this will be, I don't know when this particular section is going to air, but early next week, our press will be out with that insurer. And we're going through their entire network of brokers, sales teams, their digital platforms, whether it's digital sales or offline sales. We're going to be spread across the country through their ability to take us to market. And that is where we believe we'll be able to achieve immediate sort of scale in the near term. I think the long-term and the long-term approach that we're adopting, which we've laid the seeds for today, will show and bear fruit in the coming years, is the concept of embedded insurance, right? And if you see the way the bigger players like Apple and Netflix and everybody else they're embedding their services within user experiences, right? So I use Apple Pay to buy something. I have a buy now, pay later option within that. So it becomes part of that experience. And so through our ecosystem of partners, we started to embed it. And that's how our growth strategy long-term is going to be. We're going to go to the point of sale where people are looking for health and wellness, and we embed the solution in it. There's a gym, I'm not at liberty to say the name at this point, but that we're signing up with, which will embed our product within their offering. So you'll pay one premium or one amount for a gym membership and an insurance. And that becomes your true embedded insurance. So I'm going to look after myself at the gym. I take my insurance from there, and insurance takes care of the gym, and the gym takes care of the insurance, so it sort of becomes one.
Right.
And we've got international inspiration to look at to see how this has been done. So
right. No, absolutely. I think the embedded insurance space is kind of the holy grail that a lot of insurtechs and insurance companies have tried to kind of chip away. And I think a few of them are making inroads into it. So it's good to see that you guys are also kind of taking that approach. Very good. So now taking a different angle, probably we'll go into that all-consuming funding process, right? Which most founders, including me, have gone through this, and we kind of say, hey, I don't want to ever go through that again. But do tell us at a high level, how was the process? What do you think about the current environment in terms of funding? We can see the markets are pretty much kind of depressed in terms of both private and public markets. Any piece of advice you want to give to aspiring founders? So it's a broad basket of.
We're aspiring founders, so go for it. If you have to ask us, we're happy to take it. But coming from the banking background, I thought it wouldn't be as difficult as it is. But what I realized is the pressure on founders, and I'm sorry, I'm just speaking out of turn here, right? The pressure on founders in building the business is big enough that raising funding should just not be their job, right? But it is. So we're just gonna have to do it, right? But why don't you speak to this? I'll see if I can.
I mean, it's been an interesting journey. So I mean, we spoke to many investors. We're continuing to build out the product in parallel as well. I think one of the things we realized after having a few initial conversations is that start trying to raise well in advance of your runway ending, but don't raise until you have to. So we've actually taken a step back to further build out our product, and because it's just not necessary right now. So we're building out the product. We'll get more scale, and then we'll see what the requirements are a little further down the line.
Yeah. So look, the way that we see this is, and this is, I know, something we were talking about very early on. The current environment's a bit, what's the right word for it? It's a bit sensitive, right? In the sense that there's a lot happening, and the last thing we want is to take our eye off the prize, right? So for us, while funding is very important and needs to happen at some point, we want it to happen more organically, more naturally, rather than going out in search for it aggressively. It cannot be our sort of holy grail, right? Or our North Star. It has to be something we pick up along the way.
Yeah, it needs to enable us, right? Like
That's
instead of being a target. And you see a lot of posts across, especially on LinkedIn, celebrating the first round and second round and all this kind of stuff. And that's great. All the glory associated with that is fantastic. But I feel like that does put a certain amount of pressure on founders to go and try to raise as much money as possible, more than they potentially need, and put a lot of stress on that while the business suffers, right? And at this stage, at an early stage, it's very important to focus on getting sufficient traction before, and let the investors come to you, right? Like it's I think that's very important. So I think, I mean, we had our initial conversations, they were interesting, a lot of learnings from them, and yeah, we've sort of taken our eye back onto the ball as
so yeah, it's going to happen eventually, as long as we keep at it. Look, we're like I said, very stubborn on the ultimate objective of changing the world, and the way in which we're doing that is very much we're bringing in a little bit of sort of technical mastery in entrepreneurship, like the good old days, like how our fathers did it. Take the money that you have and try to make a business out of it instead of taking other people's money. But you know what? If other people's money comes, then it comes. But I think the idea is, we're at this point of scale right now where we're growing, no matter whether the funding doesn't happen. What we want to make sure is that when the funding does come in, we're sort of well situated to be able to make the best use of that money, because the way the markets are right now, you don't know in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years what's going. I mean, I was very much at the center of the storm during the recession of 2008, and it was like almost 4 years of our life pretty much written off, right? And then the pandemic hit, and I don't know if we're a privileged generation or a lucky generation to see all of this, but anyway, so a lot of stuff has happened, and a lot of learnings. Yeah, a lot of learnings. But the one thing that we're certain of is that the future is uncertain. So what we need to do as founders today is make sure that our business is sort of recession proof, right? Make sure that despite what happens in the greater economy, that this business will continue to run either way. And that's what we're kind of focused on putting together right now, is making sure those building blocks are strong enough. And when the money does come, we're sort of well positioned to make the most of it.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of ties in with some of the advice I'm giving to my own startups is, stay frugal, focus on unit economics, shut down all those freemium schemes, start charging. So
yeah, that's what I'm telling you. That's what a business is all about, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we build business for institutions like banks and insurance companies and everybody else. And now when it comes to building our own business, we can't do it without somebody else's money. I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, money is always welcome. Just disclaimer. I don't know who's going to hear this. You have money and you want to spend it.
Which is prudence.
If you want, we can include this section or cut it out as you wish.
Definitely include it with my email address at the top, just to make sure they find their way to the right place, and my bank account number.
Perfect.
Great. I mean, so now you've got your first set of customers. You've got the ball rolling there. What has been the response so far from the consumers on the product and generally the whole experience itself? And also, what are the trends that you are seeing in the space of wearables, especially linked to health? And how do you think these trends will shape the whole business model, maybe in the near future itself?
Great. So, I mean, our one of the key things we wanted to do when we launched wellx was take into account the fact that this is a very price sensitive market, right? So
Yeah.
you can't charge the customer 1 dirham more. If you try to, they're not gonna buy your product. So that's why our product costs exactly the same as comparable products in the market. On top of that, we're giving up to 2 months of premium as cashback rewards, right? So the response has been incredible because effectively you're just giving stuff away for free. Well, not for free. You have to work for it. You have to work, customers have to work and put in effort on their health side, but the value proposition is very straightforward. So response has been amazing. And in terms of wearables, what's quite, a couple of factors are quite intriguing. So there was a Bloomberg report, Arabian Business report said that 90% of the UAE population is going to be with some sort of wearable by the end of 2025. End of 2025.
Okay, nice.
And so proliferation of wearables is extremely high in the region. And if you look at other parts of the world, right? So I know like Score has done a product, or Peakry has done a product where they're pre-underwriting during onboarding based on the wearables data. And so this trend is starting to emerge because at the end of the day, so far, all underwriting models and actuarial models are based on historical data. And that was predominantly because there's no access to real-time data. But now we do have access to real-time data. So as long as you can augment those models with usable insights, then it's just an evolution, a natural evolution of more accurate pricing models, right? So that's what we see as being the trend. Eventually, my pure wish is that your premiums are set on a day-to-day basis based on how you behaved on that day, right? And so across the year, you're paying a flexible premium based on activity, and that's the eventual goal that we want to get to, and I'm sure we will.
Yeah, I mean, it's too soon to say, right? What the engagements levels will be, how much of what Vaibhav mentioned we'll be able to do in the near term. In the long term, for sure, everything that he says is stuff that's been done in other parts of the world. So at some point, we'll find our sweet spot as well. I think what we've kind of done right is, like Vaibhav mentioned, if we're pricing it like everybody else, and you're getting something back in return, earning it back, but getting it back, you're already sort of creating that fad. We live in the UAE, in the region. How they say all that glitters is gold in this part of the world, right? So if you're doing something and your top line shows that you're really making a saving by buying into this product, then we've got the ears of the masses, right? That coupled along with, on the wearable space, we've been privileged enough to find a partner in Whoop. And Whoop is, according to Bloomberg, the world's most advanced and comprehensive fitness tracker. They also have a very, very big following in the UAE. The Crown Prince is an ambassador of the product. He's on Instagram every day, is posting his strain recovery scores. So we're kind of doing it the Dubai way, making sure that we touch, homegrown sort of insurtech, born and brought up in the UAE. We're touching on the nerves that really have impact on building the community, getting people to join the movement, because once they're in and they start to see the impact of their own sort of wellness, and at some point driving the price of their premium, which it actually does from day one, right? Because every time you do well, you start getting back money, and that eventually brings down the price of your premium. So if we're able to prove it through consistent engagement, and by doing so, we're also changing behaviors, then I think we've hit the nail on the head in what we're trying to achieve. And in doing so, you're giving consumers control over an industry where nobody has control, the insurance industry, right? You're giving people, so you're taking the actuaries and saying, you guys are really smart, but you're telling consumers you now have a say in what your premiums are going to be. It's not just these actuaries that sit in dark rooms, crunching the numbers that will decide how much you pay. It's you have control over your product now.
Yeah, and use of wearables in itself, right, does have an impact on an individual's behavior. So just having the information available to you results in some behavioral change. I know Whoop itself says that there's a 41% reduction in alcohol consumption, 20% increase in activity, etc. And just by pure usage, right? Like there's nothing, no incentive, nothing attached to it. But now you're setting targets, you're getting people to push for those targets because they're getting rewarded for it. That definitely will have an impact on behavioral change. And if you can achieve the right levels of engagement, that will bring down those claims.
Right. So I mean, I think this is good to hear. And I think we were talking to Frederick Bisberg from Daman, And we were just talking about the rewards-based kind of a health and wellness scheme. So a couple of pushbacks he gave us, I think, were, one is, are the rewards really real time? On a credit card, when you swipe, you get a reward, you're very happy. Is this happening close to the point of action, or close to when I took a fitness move? That was one question he asked. Or is it at the end of the year when I get something? But from what you say, it's almost like a monthly cashback, you mentioned, right?
It's on a monthly basis. And that's exactly why, because you can't wait a whole year to get
Oh,
your
yeah,
reward.
yeah.
That's right. That's right. And I
We
think
come
the
from that
second,
instant gratification generation. If we don't
Yes.
get it now, it's just never going to happen. But we just write it off.
absolutely,
No
absolutely.
patience.
And I think the second point, which I thought was sensible, was given the transient nature of UAE, now the data collection, you perhaps collect data on a cohort, and 3-4 years down the line, if they have left the country, what data is the insurer using to take decisions? Is a bit of a question mark. I don't know, any thoughts on that?
I mean, that's an interesting take, right? I mean, if you think of a cohort, I mean, we say, I mean, you're not going to have all the 27-year-old females vanish from the UAE, right? Like, or you take that further, all the 25-year-old men who weigh between 60 and 70 kilos, who have 250 active minutes a day or a week. They're not that. Yes, that individual may leave, but the data is still very much relevant. So I don't think that is the concern. I think as over time, as we're able to build the parallel between the wellness data and the claims, those models will continue to grow and develop and still be relevant, irrespective of whether the same individuals that inform the original decision making or in original models are there in the UAE or not.
And hey, in 3 years, when they leave, we hope to be in the country that they go to, so that data will follow them wherever they go.
Yeah,
That's brilliant.
absolutely. That's your market entry strategy right there.
Absolutely.
Health score follows you around.
But it's interesting to mention what you mentioned earlier about Daman. You're absolutely right. We share the reinsurer that Daman uses as well on occasion, and they've actually been very welcoming to the idea, to the extent that they've not just endorsed it, but they're almost like, their belief in it is so strong that they're almost like funding it, right? So a very big portion of what incentives we're able to give is funded by them. So I feel there's incredible ability, if you're able to bring the ecosystem together, to be able to deliver the solution that we're doing. I mean, it's all well and great that wellx is doing what they're doing and talking about it the way that they're speaking about it, because you have these 2 young kids who feel like they can change the world. But behind us, there's an entire ecosystem of partners that have come together and making it real, right? So you've got the reinsurer, you have the insurer, you have the broker network, and then you've got all these wellness ecosystem partners, and it's the ability of being able to connect the dots and bringing them all to a common cause, which has enabled us to do what we're able to do today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hats off to the community.
No, that's awesome. So you guys spoke briefly just now about the whole role of data as well into the customer mix and the underwriting mix itself. Tell us, what is the role the whole data crunching plays in wellx's business model now? How do you use them to deliver value to your users, to your business partners? And last but not the least, but how do you deal with the whole important issue of data privacy itself?
Well, I tell you, but I'd have to kill you. So fresh off Top Gun. Still... Should I go for it?
Yeah, so of course, like gathering customer consent is extremely important, right? And so a customer always has to provide consent in order to be able to earn their rewards. So whenever they do buy a policy or sign up to the applications, they do provide consent. Beyond that, I think there's numerous studies, right? There was an Accenture study that said 70% of millennials and younger generations are willing to share their activity data in order to get better premiums. We haven't seen any concerns yet on an individual level with people sharing, how many steps they're taking or these type of things to be able to get some rewards and cash incentives. The role data plays is very interesting, right? Because so our thought process is that you can't rely on one data source and one type of data to be able to inform a holistic wellness approach, right? So we've integrated with well over 13 partners at this stage, and sort of that's growing on a weekly basis. And the idea is that we need a whole breadth and depth of data to be able to get the insights that we need, and to be able to show those parallels of reduced claims. Because just steps is not enough, just active minutes is not enough, purely mental wellness is not enough, but a combination of all those factors is what will play a role. Of course, the customer gets to choose what they want to share, what they don't want to share, but the rewards are linked to that. And eventually what we believe is, as long as the customer is monetizing on their own data, which they are in this case, I think it's a fair proposition.
One of the corporates that we were presenting to very early on in our journey mentioned to us, and data privacy at large institutions is so much more sort of sensitive. You can't even talk about it, right? But he was like, this is the first time I've seen an entity specifically within the insurance space coming and talking to us about sharing data for bottom line impactability. Normally it's us asking them for data, and they either refuse to give it or inflate it and give it back to us. But this is the first time, yeah, I like that smile. But this is the first time that you're telling us you will collect data from us and help us with our bottom lines. And that's huge, right? If you're able to give people savings in a space where they had already given it up very, very long time ago, because with insurance, medical inflation takes your premiums up every year. It's just something that for certain that will happen is your insurance premium will go up as you get older, right? Or as your group gets larger or whatever. But this is this certain element of control. So it's almost like, yes, you're monetizing on data from a wellx standpoint, right? It's almost like we're buying data, but from a customer standpoint, you're taking your data and you're earning from it. Whereas everywhere else you start spreading your data, right? You go on Instagram and you like a post, you're giving your data away for free. You're sharing with somebody else what you like with no return on investment, right? On the contrary, they start bombarding you with ads, and all of a sudden they're making more money from you. But here you're actually taking your data and making money from it, right? By remaining healthy. So it has an impact, and there are studies to show it, like Vaibhav mentioned, the Accenture one and others.
Yeah. So you're not you take care of the data, and you're not finding any pushback in terms of usage from your customers, is what I'm hearing. That's great. Question, and I think probably you've answered this, but I should ask this: is are you going to be very focused on health as a segment, or do you see yourself diversifying? After all, that whole data engine is something you can export to other lines of businesses as well, right?
100%.
Yeah, for sure. So I think the obvious next product to add is life, just because in terms of the preventative ecosystem, it's the same. And if you see the sort of large competition or inspiration that we have internationally, life and health products sort of go well together. Beyond that, we'll see. But from a roadmap perspective, I think that's big enough of a chunk to tackle.
Oh, totally. Yes, absolutely.
Indeed. Yeah, I mean, I would not have been surprised if you had said no, it's just going to be health, just simply because of the focus that gives you. But here in this case, that data does easily lend to a life kind of a situation as well. I can see that.
Life, critical illness, that sort of thing. Yeah, certainly.
Employee benefits.
Oh yes, yeah. Yes. So this has been so great to have a chat with you both. It's just wonderful, to get all sorts of startup insights, and and it's just the energy is palpable. Before we end, is there a message that you'd like to send to anyone from this industry? In the UAE, it could be a personal one, it could be a business one. Floor is all yours.
Wow, that caught us by surprise. I'd like to thank my mom and my dad. And
yes, I would. I'm your dad.
Like I just won my Grammy, but no, I think look, it's been real. Getting to where we are today has not been without its fair share of incredible moments, as well as really difficult sort of let's figure this out kind of moments, right? But I think if anyone is to look at coming down a path, on which we have chosen, right? Leaving a very sort of successful job to try and change the world. I think it's a matter of passion, being passionate about what it is that you're trying to achieve, and persistence, because without grit, like, you're nowhere in this space. This is a very sort of grueling space, but the impact that you're able to make at the end, is that light at the end of the tunnel is so freaking bright. You just have to, keep your focus on being able to get there. And then once you're there, and hopefully when we're there, it'll all be worth it.
And just for the sort of entire industry standpoint, I think more than 50% of the people we've spoken to from the industry are extremely receptive to change, extremely forward-looking, and extremely excited about, changing the industry, improving it, delivering more value to customers. And whether it's the infrastructure or whether it's the opportunity that provides them the base to help grow and expand the horizons of the entire industry. I think that's changing and that's improving, and we'll see a lot of more innovation coming in from the carriers themselves, not just from startups.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if anybody's got money, we're here. My email address is on the green screen behind you.
Absolutely. We should get your we should get your contacts for the for the show notes, and we will have a link there for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We could put that out if you guys want.
Contact us for if you want to fund us, please.
You want to get in on a unicorn so early on.
Absolutely.
So wish you guys so much. All the best.
It's been real.
This was fantastic. Very good, guys.
Thank you.
You have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.